York Times best-selling author Nina Hess is here with us now to talk about A Practical Guide to Monsters. Nina, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book here we have? It's A Practical Guide to Monsters.
Well, it's an overview of all different kinds of monsters, everything from the common and expected monsters like vampires and zombies and werewolves to mythological monsters like the Chimera, which is on the cover here, and to some of the more obscure, just exclusively D&D monsters like the Beholder, which is one of my favorites. And in case you weren't familiar with the Beholder, I don't know how you could not be familiar, but the Beholder is like a giant floating orb with 11 different eyes, and a lot of the eyes are on eye stalks, and they can actually pick up things, I learned when I was researching the book, which I think is supremely cool.
So this isn't really like the monster manual for D&D. This is a little bit more of a kind of a general overview about monsters?
Right. It's really the whole idea of the book. It's for children primarily, although adults, obviously like it too. But the idea of it was sort of to extract the flavor of the D&D monsters and present it to, just the fun, the interesting facts, so that, to get kids excited about fantasy and monsters and, all those types of things.
So do you know how many total monsters do you have in the book around?
There are over 50, and I have yet to count them all up. I would
Really?
say 54 is my guesstimate.
Yes?
Yeah, I could count them right now. Shall I do that?
No, maybe we'll do that afterwards. So how did you do research for all these monsters?
Well, first, I, of course, went through the monster manual, but we have a library in R&D. I am an editor in the book publishing division of Wizards. I work for Mirrorstone, which is the children's imprint. And so I have access to this monster library, which is actually full of references of all these different, books about monsters that we've published over the years, and I look through that. I also talked to a lot of the R&D guys, and they gave me some ideas and advice. And I actually also talked to kids and had them look at the monster manual and talk to them about the monsters that they liked, and they helped me pick out which monsters are going to go in the book.
So this monster library, is that like a zoo? Do you actually have these monsters?
Well, you have to be very careful when you open up the door, because
right.
You never know what'll jump out at you. But,
yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty neat.
They're mostly in books.
Oh, all right. Well, that's probably safer anyways.
Yeah.
So you've written some other books as well. This isn't actually the first book you've gotten published.
No, I wrote a book called Whose Feet for Random House a couple years ago, and it's all about different animal feet. So I have kind of a, beast thing going on, I guess.
Yes, so, all right. Well, you said that, not me.
Yeah.
And you also did some easy reader stuff?
Yeah, I've written a lot of easy readers for kids. That's sort of my general, I guess if I had sort of an impetus to writing, my idea of writing is just I really want to get kids excited about reading. And that's one of the things that the Practical Guide to Monsters is really great at. I've heard some really cool stories from people coming to me. A parent told me that his son, who's 6 years old, got the book and he read through the whole thing where he was just reading aloud the diets of each monster. And he got to the 3 creen and it said the diet is animals and elves. And he said it just like that. And he thought that was so cool. And his dad told me that, he's not a great reader, but when he got this book, he just was so excited about the topic that it really got him into reading, and he wanted to read more, and he wanted to read more of the book aloud, and so that's, I think, one of the great things about this book is that you can use it to sort of draw in reluctant readers and get them excited.
Right, to the point where they don't even really realize they're reading because they're just like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah, and a lot of the problem with getting kids interested in reading is there's so much other stuff out there for them to be doing. There's video games,
right,
there's TV, movies, and so, you need to find, it's not so much that kids can't read, it's that they need to find the topics that they're interested in.
Right.
And I'm a big advocate of, whatever excites them, they should, let them do it, let them read it. And so this is one book you could give to the kids that are really into the video games or whatever, and say, hey, here's something you could learn a little bit more about those monsters you see in your games.
Now, it seems like a great idea for a Christmas gift. I have a nephew who's 5. What do you think is the low end that would be appropriate for
Yeah,
for
I mean,
book?
between 5 and 6 is great for read aloud. They love looking at the pictures. There's lots of diagrams in the book. There's a map of one of each monster in each category that I lumped them together into different categories. So, like, there's a map of the werewolf lair, which is really my favorite. That's really cool. Also, the trolls lair is very cool.
Neat.
Little kids like looking at that, and then, as you get older, there's a lot of facts and figures that the older kids can read, and there's lots of different levels that you can approach the book with. So
you'll give me a free copy so I can give it out as a gift?
well,
Maybe.
I guess so.
Do you play D&D? Are you into RPGs?
I am. Yeah, I started playing D&D when I came to work here, and I didn't really know anything about the game. I mean, my brother played it when I was a kid, but I was like, oh, what's this D&D about? And I started playing with some coworkers, and we totally got into it. My character is a gnome sorcerer. However, he is actually a half-elf now because he was killed and brought back to life by my party. So his name is Nibbles. Yeah. Nibelonius is his full name.
So you play a character named Nibelonius?
Yes.
Wow. All right, so that's good.
But yeah, and then that was really helpful in writing the book too, because like a couple times we were fighting monsters, and I was like, I know what this monster is. I could guess before the dungeon master told us.
So any other games you play other than D&D?
Right now I'm playing a game called Cult, which I don't,
What's Cult about?
It's like kind of a horror modern game. So you're actually playing like modern characters. You're not really fighting monsters. It's more made up monsters, not like these kinds of monsters, although I guess they are made up too. I like to think they're real.
They're real in your mind, right?
Yeah, they are.
Any future books coming out? Anything else coming out that might be?
Well, if you're into the practical guides, we are doing more practical guides, and I'm working on those with my editor hat on, not my writer hat. And that's going to be the practical guide to wizardry and the practical guide to dragon riding, and those are coming out next fall. There's also the practical guide to dragons out right now if you're into dragons. I worked on that one last year, editing that one, and that was a really big success for us too. That was a New York Times bestseller for 14 weeks.
Wow. So what's the next one you're going to write?
The next one I'm going to write is currently in progress.
What would you like to write? What's your big dream? What's the
I
book
really
you
want to
write?
do a picture book. I've got a bunch of picture book manuscripts and working on that, and a novel, of course. I mean, who doesn't want to
the
write
Great
a
American
novel?
Novel, right?
And I would really like to be a director too.
Really?
Just kidding.
Anything else? Bodybuilder, sports
Sure.
star. Great. All right. Well, Nina Hess, author of Practical Guide to Monsters, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot.